and welcome to Hard Copy from our channel's television studios in Abuja. I'm Kayla Magwa. Our back and forth with insecurity continues. The military is reporting major successes in the war against insecurity. Just between the 17th and the 28th of November this year, Nigeria's armed forces is crushing militia in Taraba, arresting 7 Cameroonians for banditry at the Benue border, foiling an ISWAP attack in Chibok, destroying terror enclaves in Katsina, rescuing 12 abducted girls in Borno, rescuing another 21 people abducted by bandits in Kogi State, intensified offensives against Boko Haram, ISWAP and JS terrorists in Borno and Adamawa State led to 11 collaborators arrested, rescued victims of kidnapping at the Gwaza-Limankara corridor, air interdiction missions in Sambisa neutralized terrorists and destroyed their storage facilities. Notorious extremist Umar Idi, also known as Lere, was arrested. In fact, the 3rd Division of the Army is warning criminal elements as they rally communities for a secure harvest and peaceful Yuletide in Plateau, Benue and Bauchi states. It's a lot of work, and we thank the troops for their endless hard work and sacrifice. There are, however, intensified onslaughts of violence against the Nigerian people by these criminal elements, with increased kidnappings over the last few weeks. We have seen the resignation of the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, over health grounds, and now the confirmation of the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, as the new Defense Minister, a move millions of Nigerians are excited about, calling him a square peg in a square hole at last. What's the job ahead for him in this territory that he's absolutely familiar with? How will the soldier deal with the politicians? The former Chief of Defense Staff, Lucky Rabo, says these politicians are fueling this insecurity to gain political advantage. And as we face this hydra-headed werewolf called insecurity head-on, with or without the help of the Americans, is General Christopher Musa retired our silver bullet? Our guest tonight has argued that President Bola Tinubu's handling of national security has not aligned with the commitments outlined in his own renewed hope agenda, criticized the composition of the security meetings that the president has been having, described Nigeria's policing structure as dangerously outdated, and says the country's security response remains disjointed because those responsible for implementing security frameworks have failed to do so. What does he make of the new Minister of Defense and the work ahead for him, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and politically? Political scientist Fagbemi joins us tonight on Hard Copy. Dr. Fagbemi, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be with you, the happiest and most cheerful face on TV.
Am I?
You are.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't think so. All right, so let's go straight to this issue. New Minister of Defense.
Well, I want to thank God and thank the men and women in the presidency of the Nigerian state for being very responsive, for allowing the feedback mechanism to work. I recall that exactly about some 12-13 days ago, I was privileged to have been on a sister station, and I did vehemently complain about the fact that we were not following the legal and policy frameworks of the Nigerian state the way it ought to be followed, and particularly mentioned that the renewed hope agenda of the incumbent President Commander-in-Chief, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, simply identified national security as a first and most important priority of his renewed hope agenda. He lifted some of the phrases from the Nigerian Constitution, which meant, I believe, that he really was going to follow the precepts of the Constitution, more so that his oath of office and oath of allegiance was going to do that. But between then and now, we've had them revisit some of these issues, and we can begin to see light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the most important things that have happened in this last 10 days plus is the fact that Citizen Badru was gracious enough to tender his letter of resignation. He claimed health reasons, and Citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu, acting in his capacity as President Commander-in-Chief, accepted that resignation. And within the space of 12 hours, he was able to identify somebody that can fit into that role and will now help us to move away from what majority are now very familiar with as a cliche, moving away from the national security and defense management architecture into national security and defense management services delivery. Should
Matawale leave that ministry?
It is not about a certain Citizen Matawale that is in that office now. If the preponderance of security reports indicate that he is found culpable and there is a need for him to be asked to answer questions, the books are very clear. The administrative policy framework that governs the operations of the Nigerian state that the presidency is expected to use. And then you do have a performance monitoring and evaluation hub in the presidency under the auspices of Hadiza Bala Usman. Should Hadiza find his conduct in the last couple of months beneath the standard, then the appropriate things need to be done.
The issue is what he could be found wanting on is something that a lot of people do, which is paying ransom. The concept of ransoming with these bandits, and it's been going on for a long time. I'm not saying he's doing it, but he has been accused of doing it. The governor of the state that took over the state after him, Zamfara State, said, this is what Mr. Matawale was doing. I'm not going to do it, and because of that, we don't get along. That has been the narrative out there. Of course, Mr. Matawale has responded to things like that. But the question has really been about the presidency picking General Christopher Musa and putting him alongside a man who is a politician. So what we've got now is a soldier and a politician running our defense ministry. Is this a union that could work, or should Matawale be asked to leave so that the soldier can get what soldiers do?
Interestingly, we need to be very careful and mindful of the provisions of our legal and policy frameworks. CG Musa will be operating based on sections 147 following of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Now that we know is going to be going to the Ministry of Defense and properly designated as a Minister of Defense, then he will have to operate suo motu and properly and complying with the provisions of the Armed Forces Act, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, Cap 20, which now defines his portfolio, gave his job description, and the lines of communication that he does have with stakeholders. The first stakeholder he has a responsibility with is that of Mr. President, the appointing authority. Once we understand that the roles that the incumbent Minister of Defense is expected to play have been defined, his job description is clear, and you do all those meetings, transparency, stewardship, accountability, reporting, monitoring and evaluation now comes into play. Now, all of us are familiar with the fact that the Honorable Minister does not have the direct operational command of the services. But because he's involved in policy, and we are fortunate now to have somebody who had either served as the Chief of Defense Staff and Chairman, Joint Chiefs, meaning that he used to hold meetings with service chiefs. And of importance to us to notice the fact that, fortunately, here is a man that served in the military, and fortunately, he had passed through military school, Defense Academy, and all the other trainings, and he related with other colleagues in all the services. So he has earned the mutual respect, the camaraderie bonding, and above all, the esprit de corps that they require to operate. Now, he is taking this with him into that office. When you listen to C.G. Musa yesterday, speaking as citizen C.G. Musa, who has a wealth of experience and is willing to do the job, what he said on the floor of the Senate is the same thing some of us have known. All these security breaches that we are dealing with, I tell you, we can stop it in 42 days. 42 days is 6 weeks. Using these extant legal policy frameworks, in as much as everybody is doing what they're supposed to do.
Is citizen Christopher Fagbemi Musa, is he the silver bullet? Do you think he's going to be up against? Because you actually took the question from me. Listening to him on the floor of the Senate yesterday, we're like, okay, he knows he's never been ashamed to talk about controversial things. When the Kebbi State governor talked about how, you know, the military were moved away, they've got an intelligence, you went there and then you left. Who gave the order? He brought it up because I know a lot of people would shy away from that topic, but he brought it up. Talks about operational lapses, talking about ransom payments to bandits, which we've all been worried about as a people, saying this is something that we should not tolerate. So listening to him yesterday, I started to wonder, what are some of the challenges that Mr. Christopher Fagbemi Musa might have to face in this capacity as citizen, not general
And I'm so
anymore?
happy you joined me in referring to my brother C.G. Musa as citizen. Do you know why? Because the moment you keep on using the military career and title of general, you just want to assume that
he's going to be forceful like that. He's not. He's now wearing...
Is now
Agbada.
going to be... Now, when you understand what he was trying to achieve, yesterday when he was going through the Senate, he recalled the fact that we need to investigate. You know why? Because when you send officers and men to a duty post, they are expected to serve and stay at that duty post for a particular period of time.
Well, Mr. Fagbemi, just so we don't lose my question, what challenges will he face with this attitude he has?
The challenges he will face is that he will have a number of his colleagues and supervisory colleagues in the national security and defense management architecture that are now supposed to move into management services delivery, not ready to follow the provisions of those instruments. I'll give you a very good example. It will most likely have a problem with the incumbent National Security Advisor. The National Security Advisor, to all intents and purposes, based on the provisions of the Constitution, based on the provisions of the Nigerian Security Agencies Act, and based on regulations, some of them that we know and we don't discuss in open. It is just to play an advisory role. Occasionally when there are meetings, he plays a contrarian school of thought to help bring out the best. It is not that he has a supervisory role over a minister. It is only the President Commander-in-Chief that has a supervisory role. And therefore, when they go to meetings, the Honorable Minister has his own direct relationship with the Commander-in-Chief, with the President, who is the appointing authority for both of them. And this is where the Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, as the Chief of Staff...
But why would he clash with the NSA?
Currently, the NSA is moving away from advisory and coordinating roles that are supposed to be behind the scene to implementing policies. If we allow the NSA, the National Security Advisor, to stay at its legal limits, then some of the issues that we are having, we will not be having it. Currently, Mr. President reposes a lot of confidence in him. That is good, but unfortunately, it is counterproductive. For example, you cannot ask an advisor to lead a statutory minister. Yes, it was mentioned in the Constitution, but when it comes to international relationships, it is a minister of government in charge of that sector or subject matter that is supposed to provide the leadership.
All right, let's go on a short break, and we'll continue this particular train of thought when we come back. Please stay with us on Hard Copy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hard Copy, right on Channels Television. If you just joined us, we have political scientist Fagbemi with us on the program. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, you say the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, is moving away from advisory roles to actual implementation and policy making and things, leading the delegation that went to the United States. You say these things are wrong and that it might cause a clash between him and the new Minister of Defense, General Christopher Gwabin Musa, retired.
You recall that I'm on record to have challenged that I should be provided the data to challenge me and stand to be corrected. That the incumbent Honorable Minister of Interior had ever attended any Security Council meeting, as he's supposed to have been attending. The Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now, it's on record that the Interior Minister, Ojo, in public domain, will say, I'll go and meet and take instructions from the NSA. That in itself is a misnomer. It must stop. They are to meet in these councils. The NSA is equally an aide, an appointee of Mr. President. And this is what we are saying. The Chief of Staff must become upbeat in the sense that there is a lot of responsibility he has to moderate the excesses of all these individuals that are occupying these offices. One of the few things that ought to happen is that when they are going to these council meetings, each statutory member of those councils is supposed to come with a council memo, and then they will deliberate. And this is where the role of the National Security Advisor comes in. It goes through your submission. He picks issues. He literally does what we do in academic circles, peer review, and then it challenges the ideas behind and the principles that led you to that to ascertain that your submissions were properly thought out and you are making it available. And when the Commander-in-Chief is going to approve, it will be approving something that has been clearly thought out and all the issues have been properly marshaled. And this is why we're having issues. You recall that what you were trying to ask us to discuss was, oh, is it right to pay ransom? The truth of it is that no government anywhere in the world subscribes to negotiating, to discussing with criminals. Now, because you understand that the primary responsibility of governance is the security of lives and property and their welfare, and how to ensure that you mitigate collateral damages. You may open back channel communication systems with these criminals. To you as government, they remain what? Criminals. When you say bandits, it means the people are outlaws. Yeah. And when outlaws, you don't negotiate with outlaws. You allow the law to take its effect. You do not popularize a de-radicalization program that is counterproductive to the administration of criminal justice system. Maybe
People who are in government right now, state governors, who are looking at this insecurity in their states and thinking, look, I'm just going to kick this can down the road onto the mouth of office. Let me pay who I need to pay. Let me get out of this place. You know, because it may seem too many heads. This hydra-headed monster is too big, but I got one and four come out. If I got two, so let me kick this can down the road, pay everyone I need to pay, have peace in my community until I'm gone. Is it a possibility that this is what is going on? So if you have that mindset in many of the places where these bandits are operating, how is citizen Christopher Gwabi Musa going to handle that situation?
Where we are is very simple. We have gotten to the level that we must enlighten Nigerians to understand that some of the things that they want to push to him do not necessarily fall under his purview. We have 42 entities that are expected to play different kinds of roles, and that is why we're saying it is now time for us to operate by the books. On a daily basis, and you know it, when you go to the bank to drop some money and you do transaction, the Financial Intelligence Unit demands that the banks must give an account of what is going on. So we need to do all those due diligences. Now you're talking about a governor wanting to just sweep it under the carpet until he leaves office. We can no longer toy with such. Once we have all these people operating by the books, everybody, for example, enough is enough of governors accepting to discussing policing matters at the Economic Council. Meanwhile, the Constitution says you are supposed to discuss it at the Nigerian Police Council. It is the same membership, it is the same people that will come to Abuja. But when you are discussing it at the Police Council, you have an opportunity to really interrogate the issues, and then some of the components of the policing industry, the policing enterprise will be around, the Police Service Commission will be present, and they have their own role. And can, for example, Mr. President has just issued a directive that 20,000 initially and then additional 30 to make it 50,000. And the withdrawal
of police from vehicles.
But unfortunately, the people that issued the statement did not do the statement the way it's supposed to be written as a presidential directive. The ideal thing is for it to have been written that the President Commander-in-Chief thereby authorizes the Police Service Commission to pursue this pursuant to Article D of their own legislation to support and supervise the Nigerian police force to activate the recruitment of this.
Because so it doesn't just come off sounding like a suggestion that the president
No, it's not.
He called the IG and told him what he felt.
And then
the IG said, so the president said,
I don't blame my younger brother, Sunday Tokun. I don't blame him because everybody wants to arrogate power to himself. The appointing authority is the President Commander-in-Chief. Yes, no doubt. But when you have a system that is being operated in aberration, when you allow a man to act as Inspector General of Police for nearly 6 months before the Police Council comes to meet and then ratifies, and then you allow a certain incumbent President Commander-in-Chief to extend the tenure, he feels his loyalty is only. But meanwhile, the way the Constitution has been prepared and presented is that, yes, the appointing authority remains the President Commander-in-Chief, but he must receive advisory and concurrence input from the Nigerian Police Council. Police Council. Now, the role of the Police Commission in such an appointment is that they will look at the establishment and advise that so that we do not disrupt the career progression of police officers, and we will not lose men that because you pick a younger, a much more junior AIG, because the Police Act 2020 says you can pick an AIG. So if somebody was promoted AIG yesterday and Mr. President wants to appoint him as IG, he can. But if the Police Service Commission were involved, then the Police Service Commission will say, Mr. President, the implication of this is that X number of officers will go. We do not have the kind of resources to allow them to go. And these are the negative implications. We don't discuss these negative implications. That is why all these things are happening. And the stewardship and accountability to the letter of and the spirit of the legal and policy frameworks is what some of us are arguing for.
As we wrap up, are you hopeful that this is the government that will handle insecurity and bring it to its knees?
I am very hopeful that the incumbent president commander-in-chief has listening ears and is willing, and that he has come to appreciate that some of us who criticize, we do such out of patriotic sense of duty, and some of the things that we put on the table, when they go through the books, they're the same thing. And my friends that are serving...
Does he have the willpower?
He does have the willpower. For him to have accepted the resignation of Citizen Badru as Minister of Defense, he does have. He does have the capacity for him to have taken the pains of doing some of the things that are being done. And the National Assembly too are already upbeat. And it looks as if the pressure coming from the United States of America, from my very good friend, President Donald John Trump, is making the correct kind of waves and pressing the correct kinds of buttons.
There's never enough time to discuss Nigeria's security. But we want to thank you very much, Mr. Kunle Fagbemi, for being with us on Hard Copy. And good luck with the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
That's Hard Copy this week. I'm Kayla Magwa. Good night.